Tonight, an incredible story of bravery, how a Vancouver man saved a complete stranger from a violent attack.
He was wearing a balaclava over his face, and immediately I knew something was wrong.
A young woman was being robbed at knife point until 3 Good Samaritans stepped up.
I have a sister, you know.
A CBC News exclusive. The Prime Minister set to face worried Liberal MPs.
Caucus will be jittery, and a lot of it will be convincing them that there is a plan.
But with sinking poll numbers and no campaign director, can he calm rattled nerves? She started her snack business behind bars. And the tagline, popcorn so good it's criminal.
Made with conviction.
Now she's trying to help other former inmates build a life on the outside.
That people after incarceration are worthy of employment.
The Canadian founder of Comeback Snacks on the prison sentence that launched her booming business.
From CBC News, this is The National with Ian Hennemanson.
We begin tonight with an act of selflessness that police say rescued a Vancouver woman. 3 men, Good Samaritans, stepped up to stop a violent robbery on a high-traffic street in the city's east side. Vancouver police say a young woman was grabbed outside her family's corner store and threatened by a man with a knife on Saturday night. A passerby noticed the confrontation and stopped his car and then flagged down 2 other people to help. The man who first stepped in told his story exclusively to Yvette Brent, how the group scared off the attacker and what compelled the rescuer to stop and intervene.
He had his arms and kind of a physical looming presence over her.
That's what Christopher Boyd saw as he ran up to help a stranger.
He was wearing a balaclava over his face, and immediately I knew something was wrong and was not okay.
A 23-year-old woman was closing up her family corner store on this busy street when suddenly
she was approached from behind by a man. We believe the man was masked and the man had a knife.
That's when Boyd, driving along the street, saw something suspicious and pulled over. He flagged 2 other men. Together, the trio of Good Samaritans scared the attacker away.
And then finally she said, "No, help, please, help." And at that point, the 2 gentlemen were screaming, "We've called the cops." I was trying to chase after him. He let go of her and started running down the laneway. So I immediately grabbed her and told her to run back this direction towards the street to get away from him.
The woman was terrified but wasn't seriously hurt.
We basically stayed with the girl here until police came, paramedics came, her family came. And yeah, it was awful for her. Absolutely terrible.
The suspect, a 59-year-old man known to police, was arrested an hour and a half later at this park, thanks to leads from the victim herself, witnesses, and the men who stopped. This assault comes in the wake of several high-profile violent stranger attacks in Vancouver, including a knife attack last week that left 1 man dead and another with a severed hand in the city's downtown. That's left many wary.
You really shouldn't feel concerned here, but still it happens, and yeah, it's a very scary thing.
She was in shock.
Still, Boyd didn't hesitate to step up. He says he's not sure what would have happened if he didn't stop.
I really don't know. It's a scary thought. I mean, it's a really scary thought.
Not everybody he flagged down pulled over.
It's not even a thought. It's just, you just have to stop to make sure.
But for Boyd, there was no choice. Yvette Brent, CBC News, Vancouver.
People gathered in Wetaskiwin in Alberta to pay tribute to a teenager who was shot and killed by RCMP last month. 150 people lit candles last night as an honor song was played. In the same spot, 15-year-old Hoss Lightning died an hour south of Edmonton. His grandmother remembers him as a friendly person who would talk to anyone.
He was such a kind-hearted person. You know, he knew his culture. He did his Sundance last year.
Alberta's police watchdog says Lightning called 911 for help. RCMP responded, but a confrontation occurred and officers fired their guns. Lightning's death is under investigation. Liberal MPs are starting to gather in British Columbia tonight ahead of a caucus retreat, and the Prime Minister will likely face an anxious crowd. There are growing concerns in the party after a summer of sagging poll numbers and a devastating loss in a Toronto by-election. JP Tasker looks at the pivotal days ahead.
An electoral battle is underway in this Montreal riding. La Salle-Mard-Verdun has been a Liberal seat for most of the last century.
People don't like having one party in power for too long.
Some voters are looking for change in the federal by-election 1 week away.
People are not happy with the Liberals. They're not happy. And they're basically saying, I'll vote anybody but the Liberals.
The Prime Minister's name is not on the ballot, but Brent Tyler is voting like it will be.
What are the issues that are most important for you this by-election?
To get rid of Justin Trudeau.
I know we've been in government for 9 years, and I know that's a long time in Canada.
Justin Trudeau and his cabinet are expected to get an earful from some Liberal MPs this week in BC, the first caucus meeting in months, and there's a lot to talk about. Losing the Liberal stronghold of Toronto St. Paul's in that June by-election.
This was obviously not the result we wanted.
The party's national campaign director just quit, and the NDP pulling out of a deal to prop up the government.
Trudeau's Liberals can't deliver change.
Some Liberal MPs tell CBC News they are growing restless after a tumultuous summer. Cabinet's message to an anxious caucus: focus on the main opponent.
Mr. Poilievre doesn't actually want to share his vision because it's unlikely that it's something that resonates with a lot of Canadians.
But it's the Liberal Party that's not resonating with many Canadians right now. Poll aggregator 338 Canada shows the Conservatives have a sizable lead nationwide.
Caucus will be jittery, and a lot of it will be convincing them that there is a plan to get back out of this hole that they're in and to win the next election.
The next test, the Montreal by-election, and it could be tough to pull off a win, says this poll analyst.
With the lack of enthusiasm behind the Liberals right now, their sagging numbers in Quebec, but also across the country, it is the kind of riding that could be up for grabs.
So, JP, what are Liberal MPs saying about the high-stakes week ahead?
Yeah, Ian, Liberal MPs aren't saying much publicly, but based on the conversations we've been having, we know there's a lot of discontent. Privately, there's grumbling about the Prime Minister and the party's direction. Some MPs are eager to move on from the Trudeau era. They're just not comfortable saying that on the record. That may change after the Montreal by-election if the Liberals lose another ruby red seat like La Salle-Mart-Verdun next Monday. We might see some MPs, maybe even some cabinet ministers, speaking more freely about the future and whether it's time for Trudeau to step aside after 9 years at the top. Ian?
JP Tasker in Ottawa. U.S. presidential hopefuls Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are preparing for Tuesday's debate. Despite their vastly different visions for the country and a burst of Democratic enthusiasm, the latest polling shows the race narrowing, essentially a dead heat. And as Katie Nicholson explains, the debate could shake things up.
As Donald Trump rallied supporters in Wisconsin, his mind was on an even bigger audience for the debate in Philadelphia.
We're run by stupid people. Stupid people. And we found that out at the debate with Joe. How did that work out? And we're going to find it out again on Tuesday night. Is anybody going to be watching?
On Tuesday night, Trump and Kamala Harris will have their first and so far only presidential debate, pitting the showman against the prosecutor, former president against current vice president, and the stakes are unusually high.
Particularly because the race seems to be statistically frozen, so the debate gives an opportunity to break that logjam.
Harris took a break Sunday for a stroll in Pittsburgh, where she's been hunkered down with her prep team. Her big challenge? She's still largely unknown after 4 years in the shadows of the vice presidency.
I think that this debate will be an important part of the process of introducing herself to the American people and establishing her qualifications.
In past debates, Harris has held her own.
The Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
Trump often can't stop speaking.
The question is, Justice, radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is
styles and personalities that will almost certainly clash.
Well, I think the challenge for Donald Trump is going to be to control being Donald Trump, which he has a really hard time doing.
This GOP strategist says Trump's undisciplined antics risk turning voters off.
Biden beat Donald Trump 4 years ago because Joe Biden was more likable than Donald Trump. And so this really is going to come down to an issue of likability, as most elections do.
This may not just be the most important debate of this election. It may also be one of the most watched in history. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Washington.
There are multiple reports out of the U.S. tonight that the mother of a 14-year-old who carried out a deadly school shooting in Georgia warned officials to check on her son on the morning of the attack. Those reports say the victim's mom called the school on Wednesday and described the situation as an extreme emergency. About 30 minutes later, 4 people were killed, several others injured. Colt Gray has since been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. A truck driver gunned down 3 Israelis at a border crossing between Israel and Jordan, the first attack across that border since October 7th. Israel's prime minister condemned the attack and urged the country to unify against its enemies. The gunman died in a shootout with security forces, identified as a 39-year-old from Jordan's southern region. Hundreds marched in Jordan's capital celebrating the gunman. So far, no militant group has claimed responsibility. And 60 kilometers from that border crossing, Margaret Evans takes us inside the town of Jenin, a prime target of Israel's week-long military operation in the occupied West Bank. And while that raid is now over, it has left deep, visible scars.
Dreams tend to slip in and out of focus in Jenin, time measured under a decades-old occupation. Abu Ahmed clears debris from the family barbershop after Israeli troops destroyed it last week. Again, the last time was 2 months ago, he says. I fixed it. He says he can't afford to repair it another time. Jenin is used to Israeli military incursions. Its densely packed refugee camp, a known stronghold for armed Palestinian factions. Israel says it's targeting terrorism, that armored bulldozers tearing up roads were unearthing explosive devices. Shada Hadaisha says 2 of them targeted local reporters, herself included.
No one from the civilian was in the street, just journalists, and boom, like a moment, the bulldozers start following us.
Israeli troops withdrew from Jenin on Friday, but the Israeli military has indicated that what it's been calling Operation Summer Camps isn't over yet.
Palestinian officials call it collective punishment.
What can justify destroying the infrastructure in such a horrible way?
A woman tells NGO head Mustafa Barghouti Israeli soldiers used her house during the raid, defiling it, and pictures of her sons. One, a fighter killed 2 years ago, the other, an Israeli prisoner. Not far away, another family is mourning one of the 14 Palestinian militants Israel says it eliminated. His mother says Mohammed Abbas Mero joined the militant faction 4 years ago when he was 18. To fight for God and Palestine, she says, and nothing else. Palestinian officials say 39 people were killed in the overall operation, including 8 children.
The Israelis are leaving no choice for Palestinians, for coexistence, for peace, for two-state solution. It's either survival or death.
People in Jenin expect Israeli troops to return, but say they'll keep rebuilding as long as they can. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Jenin.
Venezuela's opposition leader has landed in Spain after fleeing his country out of fear of being imprisoned. The departure of Edmundo Gonzalez comes 1 week after Venezuelan authorities announced plans to arrest him, accusing the 75-year-old of conspiracy. Gonzalez claims to have won a recent presidential election, but the incumbent, Nicolas Maduro, has been named the winner by the election body, though voting tallies have not been published, and many in Venezuela, as well as other nations, have refused to recognize the result. Typhoon Yagi, the most powerful storm to hit Asia this year, is now downgraded to a tropical depression. It killed at least 14 people in Vietnam alone, the storm bringing down power lines and trees and triggering widespread flooding. Yagi also slammed China and the Philippines, leaving dozens injured. Back here in Canada, it's taken nearly 2 months, but the devastating Jasper wildfire is finally under control. This weekend marks the first time tourists have been able to return since late July. But as Sam Sampson reports, there is still a long road ahead.
This is like quarter-inch steel plate.
A bear-proof trash bin can withstand hungry wildlife, but not this summer's wildfire.
Fire-generated convective hull was obviously able to rip apart steel structures that are designed to withstand the tensions of a grizzly bear.
This is what's left of a popular campsite near the town of Jasper. The 32,000-hectare fire left just rubble of campground showers and the only phone booth left in Jasper National Park.
You can see the root systems of a bunch of the trees that have been ripped out of the ground.
All camping reservations are canceled for the rest of the year. It's not safe for people to stay here yet. But inside town, visitors were welcomed back this weekend for the first time since the fire, with some restrictions. The west side, where a third of the town's buildings were destroyed, is off limits to tourists.
To protect the privacy of people who are still grieving over their personal losses.
Jasper's mayor says the decision to welcome back tourists, while some residents still can't live in their town, has been challenging.
That is the critical balancing point that we have to manage. On the other hand, for those who are here, we will visit further calamity on them if they don't have some opportunity to resume their businesses, and that will exacerbate the condition that as a community we are all in.
I think there is a certain level of anxiety and apprehension about what if could this happen again.
The vice president of Marmot Basin, a popular ski area, says the drive up the hill is spooky, but since the resort was spared, they're getting ready to open in November.
The entire community is looking forward to that because that is going to get us through the winter in terms of supporting the community economically.
Of course, this all hinges on safety. Though the fire danger is lower, Parks Canada says there's still a risk of smoke and fire inside already burned areas right until winter. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Edmonton.
Paris closes out the Paralympics with a rain-soaked party. And Canada's top athletes reflect on 11 days of competition.
It's just been an insane whirlwind of emotions.
The race to find artifacts at risk of being washed away by climate change.
It is definitely sad as an archaeologist to literally see artifacts falling into the river, never to be recovered again.
And a woman gets into a boxing match with a bear.
I landed 3 good punches right across her face, but it didn't deter her.
We're back in 2. World number 1 Jannik Sinner silenced a packed Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York tonight as he became the first Italian to win the U.S. Open men's title. And the 23-year-old did it in style, defeating American Taylor Fritz in straight sets. The championship trophy presented by tennis great Andre Agassi. This is Sinner's second title this year. In January, he won the Australian Open. The Paralympic Games ended in Paris tonight with a colorful closing ceremony. And for Team Canada, this was one for the record books. 29 medals, 10 of them gold. Sarah Levitt shows us the Canadian athletes paving the way.
It was a history-making Paralympics for Team Canada.
And now the flag bearers of the respective nations make their entry.
So it was fitting. Closing out the games, the flag bearers each broke new ground. Para-canoeist Brianna Hennessy, who won Canada's first medal in that event, alongside swimmer Nicholas Bennett.
It's just been an insane whirlwind of emotions.
Bennett, who has autism, won Canada's first gold of the Paralympics, but he didn't stop there.
Bennett's gone past both and touches in 1:03.98 to take gold for Canada.
The first time Paralympian won another gold and a silver, and he's not alone. 22 of the 29 medals taken home by athletes who'd never won in the Paralympics. 10 were rookies, their first time at the Games.
We've matched our medal count from Rio. It's our best game since then. It's also in the pool. We've got a new generation of athletes. I think we've hopefully inspired other para-athletes.
These games were also a first when it came to funding. Each medalist financially rewarded for making the podium, something that's been in place for Olympians for 2 decades.
This is what we need to attract more talent to represent our country and to also give athletes their platform.
Unlike the Olympics, though, gender parity was not achieved. But it was close at 45%, a record number of female Paralympians.
With more competing countries, women, and global coverage than ever before, Paris 2024 has set a benchmark for all future Paralympic Games.
In all, 2.4 million tickets were sold for these Paralympic Games, and the closing ceremony took place in a sold-out Stade de France. As the Paralympic flame was extinguished and the torch handed over to LA 2028, organizers say these games succeeded where it matters most, in inclusivity, respect, and displays of heroic athleticism. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
A Florida police officer is now on administrative leave after NFL superstar Tyreek Hill was briefly detained today, hours before his team season opener. The incident, captured by fans on their way to the game, appears to show the Miami Dolphins player handcuffed and placed face down on the street. Police say Hill was stopped near the Dolphins stadium for a traffic violation. Officials say the incident is being investigated. Hill, who was later released, scored a touchdown in the Dolphins' narrow victory. The founder of a Canadian snack company says the idea came together in prison. And the tagline, popcorn so good it's criminal?
Made with conviction.
I sit down with the owner of Comeback Snacks, who tells me it's more than just popcorn.
People after incarceration are worthy of employment. It was like I couldn't do anything else.
And turning a kid's hobby into a skill.
As a parent, I really wanted to see if we can kind of flip the script a little bit.
The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next. It's been a star-studded weekend at TIFF with multiple world premieres and A-list celebrities hitting the red carpet. Among them, Mark Hamill. He's here to promote The Wild Robot, an animated flick about a robot that gets stranded on an island, builds relationships with the animals, then raises a baby goose.
It's optimistic. I mean, even under these extraordinary circumstances, a predator like my character that would be eating half the cast adapts to the situation, and they sort of all come together.
TIFF is set to run until next Sunday, with more than 270 films hitting the big screen before the festival wraps. Historic artifacts buried beneath Canada's coastline are at a growing risk of being lost forever. The threat coming in part from climate change. And as Nicole Williams explains, teams are rushing to save what they can before it's too late.
On the shores of the Ottawa River, archaeologists are busy digging, scraping, and sifting, hoping to find a piece of history. This Gatineau Park is known to contain artifacts older than the Egyptian pyramids. They've already found pieces of pottery, pipes, and arrowheads, many left behind by Indigenous people who would travel by canoe on rivers and lakes to trade goods.
The land is very important, and it tells our story and it tells our history.
But that history is at risk of disappearing. Archaeologists are partnering with local First Nations and trying to save artifacts from erosion.
We're seeing the water literally eat away at lower levels of clay, and what that's doing is undermining the soil and causing giant chunks of clay to fall off the side. It is definitely sad as an archaeologist to literally see artifacts falling into the river, never to be recovered again.
And it's not just here. Shorelines are eroding across the country and across the world, and archaeologists say that poses a serious threat to the evidence of history that is yet to be found.
Experts say the combination of rising sea levels, more powerful storms, and the loss of sea and lake ice as temperatures climb every year means shore and coastlines are disappearing faster than ever.
Depending upon that combination, you can have some places that are eroding up to several meters per year.
And for those trying to save pieces of Canada's history, they can't dig fast enough.
The world is in the grips of an unmitigated heritage crisis.
caused by climate change. Canada sits at the apex of this crisis.
With the largest coastline in the world, experts say there aren't enough resources to get to every archaeologically significant site, and it means making difficult choices about what history to save. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. How these Nova Scotia kids went from playing games to designing them.
As a parent, I really wanted to see if we can kind of flip the script a little bit.
But first, the idea for her booming business came to her in prison.
People that have been to prison, they are fighting so hard just for that second chance.
Emily O'Brien is frank about the crime she committed, and she's determined to help others overcome an all too common belief.
That once incarcerated, that your life is over, that you're not worthy of redemption.
And the tagline, popcorn so good it's criminal?
Made with conviction.
As you saw, her business is called Comeback Snacks, and it lends a hand to ex-convicts in a number of ways, driven by her experience and enthusiasm. This is a story about a comeback from crime, so let's talk about that crime. You tried to smuggle 2 kilograms of cocaine from St. Lucia to Canada, and you got caught, and I'm sure people are wondering, why would you do that?
Trust me, I never thought I'd be in that situation either. I was living in Toronto. I was struggling with substances due to something that was going on in my personal life. And I met someone through my work who was sober, and we became quite close, brought me on a trip. And turns out that trip was not just for vacation, it was also to bring drugs back. I was not very good at it. I didn't want to do it, and there's a lot of other factors involved, but at the end of the day, I did it, and I was arrested.
So you come back to Pearson, I guess it must have been, in Toronto, and you go through customs and immigration, and they say to you, go over there into secondary. What was that like at the moment you realized you'd been caught?
Quite truthfully, I felt a sense of relief, because when I was in St. Lucia, I was in a foreign country. I didn't know that world. You know, I had a great family growing up, and that was just something that was never part of the plan, let's say. And so going from being in a country with St. Lucia, trapped in a world where there's drugs and you have to bring drugs over the border, and then you're arrested, but you're arrested in your home country, you actually feel safe. Like at the end of the day, I wanted to go home.
Let's fast forward here to where you end up going to prison in Kitchener.
Yes.
What's it like being on the inside?
So in contrary to what is kind of shown in TV and movies, a lot of violence and things like that, where I actually met a lot of really, really nice people. People that, yes, had made mistakes, but also had tremendous, difficulties in growing up and tremendous suffering growing up. And so we kind of became quite close due to all the different things that we went through. Definitely was a prison. It wasn't easy. There was a lot of rules that didn't make sense. There was a lot of abuse by, whether it's verbal or mental, emotional by staff. It was definitely very challenging at times, but I think the fact that we all became friends, at least some of us, became a community.
Somehow, in prison, you come up with this business idea. And I know you've told the story lots of times before, but how did that come about? Like flavored popcorn, that this idea comes to you while you're incarcerated.
Popcorn wasn't the first idea. Like the first idea was purpose and proving other people wrong that once incarcerated that your life is over, that you're not worthy of redemption. And I recognized from the get-go that I had made a mistake, that I had a lot of reparations to do with my family, myself, and the community. And when I got there, I met so many other people in there that just realized that, but we faced this enormous barrier of society and just being condemned even after you're done your time when it comes to finding a job. And in prison, there wasn't much to do, but we were able to cook a lot of our own food because I was in a medium security facility, and we would bond over these meals, birthdays, Super Bowl, Canada Day, things like that. Mm-hmm. And it just happened to be Super Bowl where we were making a bunch of different snacks and talking about work and employment. But I realized that I wanted to do something, make something good out of this experience. And I knew that it wasn't going to be easy. I knew it wasn't going to be well liked by some people, right? But it was the only way that we could kind of get out there and prove it. And so Comeback Snacks, Popcorn, was born inside prison with the idea of hiring the formerly incarcerated to fight against the stigma against employment, right? So
So that notion gets you through your time behind bars. But when you get out, it would have been very easy to move on to other things or to treat the popcorn making as a hobby. How did you keep sustaining it as a business idea?
So when I got out of prison, I actually had to spend more time in a halfway house. So in Canada, the system is not like, oh, you're out of prison, your time is done. It's not true. I had a 4-year sentence and I served every single day of that, just in different formats. And so the excitement and the motivation from knowing that I was building something that was going to matter to myself and to other people and to society, because they would actually see that people after incarceration are worthy of employment, it was like I couldn't do anything else.
One of the things that strikes me is they're stocking these shelves right now, so it's not totally full.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of competition.
Yeah, well, we just landed here in the store, but you know, that's how we try to separate ourselves, is from like the bold flavors.
Yeah.
So, salted chocolate and caramel. Have you heard of that before?
I have not.
Probably not.
Did you invent it?
I didn't invent it, but I know people like it, so I put it on caramel corn.
And the tagline, popcorn so good it's criminal?
Made with conviction.
So, you know, the story, the unique story, obviously is interesting and presumably will catch the eye of at least some consumers. How authentic is it? In other words, what are you actually doing to help people who have been incarcerated?
So that's a great question. And so initially it was like, yes, let's hire people directly. But as you're a small company, you realize you can't hire all the people that you want to. So that's hiring directly by offering employment. And then as we grew, we had to find a manufacturing partner. Okay, so now that we have a manufacturing partner, how do we still hire people? So as we were getting into more stores, we were able to hire people to help do demos. And then we realized, okay, there's a lot of people that are reaching out to us from all across the country. So what do we do now? So what I decided to do was open up my calendar and my schedule to offering people advice on how I got to where I was. And so I'll work with people one-on-one all the time. And we also partner with a number of organizations all across Canada and even some in the US in a variety of different ways, where I will offer workshops to their clients, which are the formerly incarcerated. So that's how we've been scaling it. And what I have on the docket for this year is actually building a course for those coming out of prison or that have been out of prison on how to make their own comeback. So, and that's going to be available online and in person.
What about somebody right now who is in prison, who might be watching this on television? I assume that it can feel very bleak for people while they're incarcerated, and then they see your story and they maybe think, that's a little too much for me, like I'm not going to be able to start my own company. But what message do you have for them?
The message that I have for anyone that is going through the justice system right now is think about what you've been through, but take accountability, responsibility, and immerse that into your story that you're going to tell. Because even if you're trying to get a job at an employer, honesty is always the best way to go. And my first job out of prison was not comeback snacks. My first job out of prison was actually at a gym. And what I did was I wrote a cover letter. I said, I've been in prison and I live at a halfway house down the street and I'm trying to make a comeback. And I had my prison resume, which was all the jobs that I did in prisons, addressing the whole gaps in the resume thing when it comes to finding a job.
What did you do for that period of time? Yes.
And I put all my prison jobs down. So it's a way of not reframing your story, but talking about it in a way where you're accepting responsibility. It's about telling your story in a way that demonstrates that you've accepted responsibility, but also that you're willing to learn and that you're honest. And I think that's really what an employer wants.
What about on the other side of the table for that potential employer who doesn't know anyone who's ever been to prison and is thinking, why would I hire somebody who's been through that when I could easily hire someone who hasn't? Why pick somebody who would make bad decisions in their life and committed crimes?
So this actually ties in really well to a report that one of our community partners, the John Howard Society, put out a couple months ago. And they did a study of a bunch of employers who had hired people with criminal backgrounds and without. And they actually found that the individuals with criminal backgrounds had performed just as well, or if not better. And so you have to assess each situation on its own, but that's because people that have been to prison, they are fighting so hard just for that second chance, and they're not taking things for granted. And so when someone gives them that chance, and they can be themselves, and they can, talk about where they've been and not pretend to be someone else, that's a really, I think, freeing and empowering feeling. So.
You have so much energy, so much enthusiasm, and obviously a key part of your story is your own time in prison, and you're very open about it. Do you ever get tired of telling that story? Do you ever wish that you could just be an entrepreneur without that extra baggage to talk about?
I don't think it's extra baggage. You know, it's the bags that I choose to carry, and you know, it makes you strong. You know, it's like lifting weights or going to the gym. You got to keep lifting, and I don't get tired because I meet so many different people every day that have so many different stories, because obviously my story is not everyone's story. And I realized that I was lucky and that I had a great family. And there are so many other stories that need to be told and voices that need to be heard. So just going out and hearing these stories and helping those individuals amplify their voice, that's true freedom.
O'Brien is from Toronto. She came out to BC when we spoke on a sales trip by herself, no entourage, and talking to places like the grocery store we were at, kind of the classic founder entrepreneur story at the early part of success. Next, a group of young kids designed some old games.
The girl. Oh, I was holding the other one.
Learning the building blocks to make an arcade hit. To show you how Nova Scotia kids learn to design video games, our reporter gets right into it.
Brainstorming and working on game design together.
The assignment: create scenes that reflect their rural surroundings, like picking apples and dodging potholes.
It's easier to make tougher games than easy games.
It's just like the world opens up in a way that's quite exciting.
Jane Sponigal breaks down how this extracurricular program is inspiring pupils to expand their skills and take a fresh look at the place they call home.
This is Apple Valley Harvest. It wasn't made in 1986. It was made this year by a group of 9 to 12-year-olds in Wolfville, Nova Scotia. Select your player: Eldricken, Sterling, Henniger, or Bishop. The real surnames of some of the biggest apple producers and farmers around Wolfville. Then catch as many apples as you can in a minute and fill your bins. But watch out for worms. They'll make you lose your whole lot. Let's take a side quest to how this game came to be in the first place. Apple Valley Harvest is one game created by this year's Refresh Annapolis Valley's creative computing class, brainstorming and working on game design together. The group meets at Mike Kaplan's house. He's a software engineer who's channeling his passion into extracurricular programming for kids in grades 4 and up, initially set up with help from Acadia University.
I'm a parent. I've got 3 children. They've all showed a lot of interest in using computers, playing video games, just consuming a lot of digital content, as all our children are doing these days. And as a parent, I really wanted to see if we can kind of flip the script a little bit, to see if we can transform their interest in playing into building. It's just the world opens up in a way that's quite exciting.
You can't slow these kids down. In fact, when we showed up, they surprised us. Kaplan challenged his students to design a CBC-themed game while we were there.
Ideas that I thought of: CBC logo, Pong. Instantly, Pong. I want to play Pong with the CBC logo. Or maybe with Jane's head, we can play Jane Pong.
Maybe the characters can be the heads with rackets, with just rackets floating between them, and you hit the CBC logo.
We'll probably, have around a half an hour to play. All right, and Mark, get set, get building.
And they're off, focused and typing away. Refresh Annapolis Valley uses programs that teach coding by connecting blocks together, and each block is a step in instruction, literally the building blocks of learning code.
Okay.
Teo Muthing tries to teach me, but this is way over my head.
Oh, I see.
And don't let Scarlett Carson's cat ears trick you. She's got a reputation. Why do you like making tough games for people to play?
Well, they usually design up tough because it's easier to make tougher games than easy games.
Case in point.
Tough game, eh, Teo? Wow, you're cleaning up.
I'm still there.
Oh, yeah!
Games are meant to be played.
And what better way than on an old-school arcade cabinet, loaded with games made by Refresh Annapolis Valley, like I Got Skate and Valley Driving, in which the player must dodge potholes on Highway 101.
This is going to be a breeze. You're going to get...
A special guest drops in to play Apple Valley Harvest. Remember those 4 character options? Andrew Bishop has been farming apples for over 6 decades. He knows apples, but has never played a video game, but takes on his granddaughters.
You're the girl.
Oh, I was moving the other one.
Well, you were trying to move me. So you've had a chance to play the game now. What was that like?
Well, it's exciting. Yep. You've got to be quick at it, that's for sure.
Is that like real apple picking, having to be pretty quick and watching out for worms and things?
Well, we don't watch out for worms, but you have to be quick to get the apples.
And what's it like being able to play against your granddaughters?
They're much better than me, and they haven't picked near as many apples, so I'm not sure I understand that.
Let's do a different game.
Jane Sponigal reporting from Annapolis Valley, Nova Scotia. Coming up this week, Adrienne digs into the housing crisis and the shrinking supply of affordable homes. She speaks with residents trapped in the crisis who say financial firms buying up rental buildings are part of the problem. Here's a preview.
So we don't know who owns Canada?
We don't know who owns Canada.
In the middle of a huge housing crisis, we're investigating the role of big corporations.
We're not tasked with building deeply affordable or social housing. We're in business.
They're sometimes called financialized landlords. So what happens when they're the ones buying up old buildings?
The buildings are still there. They're just no longer affordable.
It was affordable for us, but now they're not affordable anymore.
What's the cost and who pays when giant corporations move in? Not here, not now. Every time these renters protest what they call punishing rent hikes, this is the line they say they hear.
Like carry on with our conference.
DSD withdraw the above guideline rent increases?
Sorry, I don't think this is the time with the police.
When protests outside their Toronto apartments didn't work, they started showing up at the offices, interrupting board meetings of the companies that own the buildings.
We are tenants of Affirmative Park.
The more than 80 residents from 3 Toronto buildings have also now been on a rent strike for over a year. Still, nothing seems to change, and something needs to change.
Adrienne will break down the struggle facing renters as they rally for change against private equity firms turned landlords. You can catch the story tomorrow right here on The National. Next, a Washington State woman's 1-2 punch that saved her life.
I landed 3 good punches right across her face.
How she fought off a bear with her fists in our moment. A bloodied Lynn O'Connor is lucky to be alive. She was wounded after being attacked by a black bear. Thankfully, she didn't give up and punched the bear square in the nose to fend it off. Lynn thanks CBC Radio for the idea, which she heard years before and remembered in the nick of time. Tonight, her fist fight with a bear is our moment.
I was walking my dogs. They started chasing something out in the field. I've never encountered a bear at this level, and I didn't know that they came at you that way. Her head was low, her shoulders were big. She was huffing and gruffing and swiping like that. I tried getting bigger. I tried yelling at her. And I had heard on CBC Radio about a fella who fended off a grizzly bear by punching it in the nose. And so I thought, well, here I am. Here's my chance. And I actually did try. I landed 3 good punches right across her face, but it didn't deter her. But I think what happened was she was on top of me, swipe, swipe, swipe. You know, I don't know how many swipes. But then I think my dogs were right there and got her off me. And I looked across the field and I saw a cub. And then I realized instantly, mama and cub, and we all got in between. And I was really in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I was stitched up, 18 staples in my head, 9 stitches on my shoulder. And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with the scars, right? It's like, well, there goes my career as a supermodel, right?
So first and foremost, a story about resilience and a little bit of luck and a dog, being her best friend. But also, I love the CBC radio connection. And Lynn wanted to do that interview with us to pass the message along. Make sure you have bear spray, that you make noise when you're out there to scare away bears before you encounter them. Maybe one day the moment will save a life. Thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the National's YouTube channel. I'm Ian Hannamansing in Vancouver. Good night.